Hello, Kadi here. Today we are doing our day one recap on our Torchlight Infinite Season 6. We kind of YOLO'd the season as Youga 2 because I wanted a Righteous Fire like playstyle after enjoying Righteous Fire so much on PoE. Looks like Youga 2 was an excellent choice. We have a reasonably good amount of gear here for day one. Ownerless is kind of a no-brainer because it's got a lot of stats on it and movement speed. That's good quality of life. We have a helmet, which is just energy shield, damage, and resistances. We have a belt, which is energy shield, damage, and resistances. We have a traceless pain, which allows us to reap. We have some wands that have a lot of energy shield and a lot of damage, affliction effect, and intelligence on them. We have a Twilight Vestment, which allows reaping to immediately start energy shield recharge. And then in our passive tree, we do have an energy shield recharge cannot be interrupted if it's been started in the last second. That gives us a lot of energy shield recharge with that effect. Our gloves are just kind of whatever. They are affliction effect, energy shield, and a little bit of resistances here. Our boots are movement speed, agility blessing stacks, and reaping cooldown recovery speed per agility blessing stack. And our ring is damage, intelligence, energy shield, and resistances. So fairly good setup for our gear here for day one. We found most of this. I did have to buy feline steps off of the trade auction house, but I picked those up for I think 2 FE, so not too bad at all. As far as damage goes, probably sitting around 24 million-ish damage. So sustained somewhere around 22 to 24 million damage here. Playstyle is fairly straightforward. You just channel out mind control and then cast Star Stalker on cooldown versus large single targets. And you just keep Mana Boil active by turning it on at the beginning of every dungeon. Your trait ability is going to fire out automatically and target the target that you are attacking. If you want to manually control that because the target moved, you can just press the keybind that you have for the trait to get that to manually target wherever the enemy has moved to. So damage is fairly straightforward and fairly good on the build. Survivability is phenomenal. We have 5.1k energy shield and 100% uptime on uninterruptible energy shield recharge because of the combination that we have of Twilight Vestment and our passive that forces energy shield recharge to not be interrupted. So our recovery is phenomenal, our defenses are phenomenal, our damage is good, and we can go and blast through a map real quick here as well. I just hit time mark 7. Let's go and slam one real quick.
This was also in my plan.
As you can see, clear is really solid. Single target is really good. The build is very smooth to play, which I really enjoy. And I love the AoE constant movement dot damage that you get, like the Path of Exile, Righteous Fire feel is always so nice.
powerful opponent.
And time mark 7 completed. Fairly straightforward, very quick, very easy, very comfortable. Now we'll have a build link posted down below, but here is a quick look at all of the talents that we have selected. As far as slates go, we're still working on slates here. We just have some energy shield and some damage on it. Area damage and energy shield recharge. Damage against cursed enemies. Max energy shield damage. Damage and reaping cooldown recovery speed. And reaping cooldown recovery speed is going to be the most important one right there. As far as our active and passive skills, running mind control with pain amp, pacification, cataclysm control spell, and guard. We're running Star Stalker with mass effect and cooldown reduction. We're running Mana Boil with mass effect. We're running Arcane Circle with extended duration, preparation, and increased area. We are running Corruption with 3 mouse preparation and increased area. We are running Erosion Enhancement with Restrain. We're running Swiftness with Seal Conversion. We're running Summon Frost Spirit with Seal Conversion and Reaping Agony. And we are running Energy Fortress with Restrain. From a playstyle perspective, Youga 2 is fairly easy to understand in the world of complex ARPGs today. 90% of your damage is going to come from this talent, which is Reap Purification. It settles 25% of the remaining total damage when reaping, and then removes the target's dot damage. The dot damage is immediately reapplied if you are channeling mind control. So it is just 25% more reaping with every reap. So the way you scale the character is to get as many reaps as physically possible. And we want reaps that are going to reap as often as physically possible. So this one reaps 0.06 seconds of the dot damage plus 25% of the total dot damage. This one reaps 0.07 seconds of the dot damage plus 25% of the dot damage, and so on and so forth. This one reaps 0.25 seconds of the dot damage plus 25% of the total dot damage. And you just want to be reaping and reaping as much as possible. Now, you used to be able to get reap, I think, on belt and gloves, and those are no longer applicable in the same way that they used to be. So we have less sources of reap. And I think the reaping got nerfed as well. I think it used to be 65%, and now it's 25%. But you want to reap as much as possible, as frequently as possible. And then your passive will help to deal all of the damage. You also want to increase your dot damage, so we have erosion damage and damage over time everywhere that we have access to erosion damage and damage over time. We will obviously want skill levels on mind controls, so we can scale mind controls damage over time as well. And then just continuously reaping as much as possible. Reap cooldown becomes very important. Reap duration becomes much less important, because reap duration is not going to affect this passive, which is where most of our damage is coming from. And so we really just want as much reaping cooldown as we can, so that we're reaping as frequently as possible, so that we're doing as much damage as possible. And so scaling it really just comes down to those modifiers, and is damage over time and erosion, skill levels, and then reap cooldown reduction, which we want to get from as many places as possible. You've got 2 options for boots. They're the King's Boon or something that give you an additional source of reap and some additional damage while reaping, or Feline Steps, which reduces the cooldown recovery speed of all your other reaping. I really think that Feline Steps is definitely the best way to go. Agility Blessings, in addition to that, also give you some additional damage at 2% per. The cast and attack speed don't matter, but the additional damage 2% per is nice. 9 stacks, and then one stack every time you reap, so you're like max stacks as soon as you start combat, because we do reap very frequently. Outside of that, character was very solid for a day 1. We'll lean into day 2 here, see how everything goes. And I'll post a little bit more in-depth build guide on Youga 2 as well as the day progresses. Thank you very much for following. Thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate all of these activities from you. And y'all have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Peace.